Hello everyone, I'm Shanning Nguyen, the forensic scientist who analyzes evidence from the crime scene and presents my finding-based results of my analysis of that evidence. Today I'm going to perform my work inside a forensic of the case of the Plutonium-243. I've been in depth investigating the scene of a possible homicide at the Plutonium Surface Science Lab located in Los Alamos National Laboratory in New Mexico. I'm taking the stand today to find out my suspect number one by all of the evidence we found. So first of all, we can see the night when the victim was murdered, it's clear that only 4 scientists in the lab was there. First, Mr. Hilbert, who stayed in the science lab from 8 to 11. The victim who arrived at the lab at 7. Mr. Turing got into the lab at midnight and worked until 3. Mr. Pascal, who got in the lab at 9 and worked about midnight. First was Newton's law of cooling. We have the formula of T is the temperature of the object taken T hours after the object of temperature was first taken. TE is the air temperature of the surrounding environment. T0 is the object's initial temperature, and K is the positive constant of cooling that depends on the material under consideration. In this case, it is the victim's body. What is radioactive decay? It's a spontaneous breakdown of the atomic, and it happened when the plutonium-243 disk was not secure. And what is Newton's law of cooling? It is applied to find the temperature of the body when it cools down. We can also apply it to real scenes such as the temperature of the coffee get cooled down by time. So I chose to find K first by applying to T. It is 76.6 Fahrenheit, which is after a while that the body was recorded, and the initial temperature is 78, and the environmental temperature is 71, with E, K, and times 60 because the initial and the final T was found after 1 hour, which is 60 minutes. After all, I found K was 0.00372, or we can write it as 3.72 times 10 to the power of negative 3. Using the same formula, this time I'm going to apply in the normal temperature of a human is 98.6 Fahrenheit, and the environment temperature is still the same, 71, and the initial temperature the victim was murdered is 78, and applying the K that we find just fine with the T, the number of T equal to 368.79 minutes. First is 6 hours and 9 minutes. Next, when did the disk drop? So to find out this, in the manipulation of using mass equal to initial mass times 1/2 to the power of negative time divided by hours. So they say that 2.5 kilograms of plutonium was initially secured. The disk was only left with 1.06 kilogram. So we apply in the number of M is 2.5 equal to 1.06 times to 1 divided by 2, and to the power of negative T divided by hours is 4.956. So we find the number of T is 6.13 hours. We convert into 6 hours and 8 minutes. The question is, why do I think that both of these are related? So I make the table of temperature versus time. You can see here that after just the death time, the temperature of the victim is 98.6 Fahrenheit, and after 1 hour, it dropped drastically. And to the next one, I found the table of plutonium Plutonium-243 versus time. Just before dropping, it was 2.5 kilogram, and after a few hours, it kept dropping until we find it was 1.06. Hence, I make the graph of the victim's temperature. So you can see that it gradually dropped by time each hour by the manipulation of exponential decay formula. Next is the plutonium-243 decay over time. I can see that the mass of the plutonium versus time also gradually dropped down but has a tougher line compared to the temperature. However, it also keeps dropping down exponentially over time each hour. And the most important one, let's make a simple time subtraction of the death time. So the victim was killed 6 hours 9 minutes before 5:41, which is 11:32 p.m. and the time of the plutonium-243 began to decay was 1 minute after 11:33 p.m. There must be some sort of relation between this number. I can make an assumption that they have a fight before drop the disc. So out of all the slots of scientists who stayed in the lab last night, I officially declared my suspect number 1 to be Mr. Pascal, who stayed at the lab from 9 to midnight, which is 12 a.m., that he has the highest possibility to commit this homicide. Thank you for listening.
No matter what the situation, crime scenes are difficult for loved ones of victims, the community, and also those working the scene.